Hello everyone, my name is John, I'm the Geeky Fanboy, and before I say anything more, just I want you to know I'm not here to make this movie bad for you. I'm not here to shit all over the movie and say it's the most garbage film I've ever seen, because it's not. See this as more of a film discussion. See this as me asking questions, because if you do happen to like or even love this movie, this question or this discussion is directed at you, because I feel welcome to tell me what I'm missing. That's what this is about. Um, so this isn't going to be like a straight up film review per se. It's more of a discussion. I'm gonna go through like the plot of the film, which means naturally there are going to be spoilers, and I'm just gonna give you some of my opinions on the story that or some of the thoughts I had while watching it. Now it's been like over like roughly a week since I've watched the film, so I might get some of the things wrong, or I might forget something. I do have like a synopsis here, it's to sort of guide me along. Um, but yeah, that's just sort of the introduction. Before we move on, some basic info for those of you who don't know. Fresh is a 2022 dark comedy horror movie, though I'm already having problems with the genre description here. Um, it is directed by Lauren Kahn. It is also her directorial debut, which is quite interesting considering how well the film is made. But I'm gonna come back to that. It stars Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan as the main couple, as the two main characters. And how do I start with this? First off, I feel like I need to say some positive things, because again, this is not the worst film I've ever seen. It's definitely not. It's just very meh. For me, it was very meh. And after I'd watched the film, I went online, like look up a couple of reviews on like Letterboxd, on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and on YouTube, and all of that stuff. And almost everyone I came across, not everyone, mind you, but so many people seem to really enjoy this movie. Like horror fans I follow online on YouTube or I watch reviews of, they really enjoy this movie. Or like just like general review people I follow on YouTube, most of them who have reviewed this film really like it. And that's good for them and good for you if you love this movie. It's just that I don't understand why so many people like this film so much. Um, and I hope that I'll make some of my points clearer as we go through the story. Some positive things, of course. First, like I said, this is the director's debut, and you just have to admit, for a directorial debut, this is really good. Like, because the cinematography is great, the editing is perfectly fine. The acting is good across the board. I mean, you got two fantastic actors in the as the two main characters, so I don't think you're gonna go wrong there. And just like how the film looks, how it's written, is generally okay. Especially, like I said, if you consider this is a directorial debut, it's really good. Like, if this is like your first try doing something like this professionally, bam, it's really good. I can totally see, like, with the vibes and with the acting and the story that's being told and the messages, and all that, and the theming. I can see why people would like this, especially maybe also why female viewers would like this, which is where I should probably point out that maybe I'm also not the perfect audience, or I'm definitely not the target audience for this. So, because this movie is a lot about the dating scene, especially what it's like for women to date, also like a lot about online dating. And first off, I'm not a woman, and second of all, I don't really have like dating experience per se. I haven't really done a lot of dating in my life, especially not online dating or like with dating apps or anything like that. I don't really have that kind of experience, so this might be one of the reasons why I'm missing out on some of the stuff that's being addressed in the film. Because if that's one of the major reasons I don't get some of these bits, that's totally legit. If you point out that that's my problem, and I would totally understand that. I just feel the need like to point that out. And I do appreciate what the film is trying to do in terms of like the sort of the theming, that it's trying to do something a bit more, modern day and sort of also with like a bit of a feminist angle. I appreciate that. That's pretty good. Um, it's just that as a movie, as a film overall, like how the story is told, how the characters act, how it works as a horror film or as a dark comedy, for me, it just didn't work. It was just below average, just very underwhelming. Um, so you already heard me mention that it's like a dark or black comedy horror film. It's not really a horror film. It's, if anything, it's thriller. I've heard people mention, they say that some stuff in here is like really unsettling, and it's some stuff terrified them. They felt uncomfortable watching it, and I was like, why though? I don't really understand what's supposed to be terrifying about this movie, or where the horror element is supposed to be. I mean, we'll probably come back to it as I discuss the story, but yeah. And also like the black comedy aspect. I don't really get where the comedy was supposed to be in the film. Like, I laughed at one joke at the very end of the film. I guess most of the comedy is maybe like in the first third of the film, but I don't know. Yeah, those are some of my like general thoughts I had. So I thought let's jump into the film. I'm just gonna go through the story and give you some of my thoughts and opinions on it as we go through the film. So here's your last spoiler warning in case you're still here and thought like, I haven't seen the film, maybe I should go do that now. Go do that now and then come back later. Or if you don't care for spoilers, please stick around and follow me along on this weird and crazy journey. Okay, so the movie starts off with a young woman called Noah, and she is on the most cliched bad first date ever. Like she's already dreading it going in. She's met the guy on like an online app. Goes in. It's like they meet up at like is it a Chinese restaurant, like an Asian restaurant? And you can tell from the beginning it's not going great. Like the guy is sort of a douchebag, sort of like a nice guy. He sort of does like really bad jokes. Then basically does like a really sexist common thing along the lines of, the mothers or like our generations, our mums, they used to be more feminine. They used to wear more dresses. I think you would look really nice in a dress. That kind of stuff. Then he uh, basically like does a racism at the waitress. Then and basically as they sort of like call off or finish the date, he like takes the leftovers of her food for himself to give to his brother, and you're like, okay, weird. Um, and then at the very end of the date, Noah tells him, thanks for the date, but I don't think this is going to work. I just don't feel like the two of us really hit it off. So I don't really want to do this again. Like very like just straight up and politely tells him no. And he just like does like a typical like 180 and is like, well, screw you, lady, you're a bitch, and just leaves because he's just been told off. And Noah's just like, what the hell? And I guess this is where sort of the comedy is supposed to be, because a lot of like these first 30 minutes are like commentary on like cliche classic dating stories, I guess, or like sort of even like rom-com scenarios. But it's so basic, and the movie just hits it straight out of the gate with a super cliche, bad online dating thing. And you're like, oh, okay, I can see where this is going. So Noah doesn't like it, but keeps sort of trying the online dating thing. She like swipes right or left or whatever the hell you do on these online dating app thingies on a guy who she thinks could be interesting. They hit it off, like text a couple of sentences, and my thought was immediately the guy's gonna send a dick pic or something, and of course he does, because that's what happens. Even I know that. So Noah is kind of put off. Like talks to her best friend about, I forgot her name, Molly. Molly is I don't know. We'll probably talk about Molly later. Molly is like her best friend. I think like she's bisexual, so they sort of interact throughout the movie a lot, and Noah sort of vents to her about her dating history. Eventually, at a supermarket, she happens to run into Sebastian Stan's character, who is called Steve, and they have a really awkward but still somewhat charming conversation. And he asks for her number and she gives it to him. And Noah is sort of like, oh, I didn't think this kind of thing still happened, like meeting people IRL and exchanging phone numbers. The conversation they have in the supermarket is awkward as hell. I don't know why you would give this guy your number. I get it that he looks like Sebastian Stan. Probably, this movie would probably not happen if the dude didn't look like Sebastian Stan. But yeah, I guess. Okay, it happens. They hit it off pretty well. They start dating. He's very nice. He's very charming. This is sort of just where all the cutesy couple stuff happens. They try to take it a bit slow, but they have sex pretty quickly, and they're just basically enjoying their time together. Then we get our first sort of little hint, if you didn't know about the general horror theme of the movie already, when they have dinner, and Sebastian Stan's character Steve says, "I don't eat animals," and you're like, movie. Oh, I see what you did there. No, it's it's super obvious. In case you couldn't tell what this movie was going to be about. And after a while, they've dated for maybe like a week or two, if even. And Steve invites Noah to like a weekend break. He wants them to spend a weekend away together. And Noah at first is like, I don't know, but yeah, sure, why not? He sort of talks a bit into it, but yeah, they go and do it. Noah tells Molly about it. Molly immediately is like, wee, red flags. You really shouldn't do this. You really shouldn't go with this guy you've dated for like maybe a week. You shouldn't go with him on like a weekend trip alone. And you know what? She's right. She's absolutely right. But of course, Noah's like, no, it's fine. I'll keep you updated and everything. So she agrees to go on the trip. They go and do that. He says, okay, we'll have to take a long drive. We'll make a stop at my house, and then we'll leave from there in the morning. And of course, you're immediately like, she's never ever gonna leave that house. This is where all the shit is going to happen. So they drive to his house. And it's just sort of, nice evening, hanging out. He's preparing drinks. My thought, as he was preparing drinks, was like, he's going to drug her, isn't he? And that's exactly what's happening. This, as you can tell, this movie is somewhat predictable. And when I'm saying somewhat, it's super predictable. Because you can just guess what happens, especially if you know going in, okay, thriller slash horror movie, you just immediately know what's going to happen. Um, so of course he drugs her drink, and they sort of just start talking, and then Noah notices like slurred speech, and all stuff goes blurry, and she falls over and is unconscious. This is where the one really cool thing in the movie happens. 30 minutes are over at this point, and this is the point where the opening credits hit. The movie doesn't show the opening credits, the title of the movie, until 30 minutes in, right after Noah falls unconscious. And then just as fresh across the screen. That was pretty cool. I like it because it's really like a break in the narrative. It's sort of like, okay, this was the prologue, this is all the setup, you know who these people are, you know what they're doing, you know their history, and bam, now the dark stuff is going to happen. That's actually a really neat idea, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really, really cool, something a bit different. Okay, so this is where the proper thriller slash horror stuff starts to happen. So Noah wakes up in the house in the basement, in a relatively nice looking room actually. She wakes up in captivity, chained to like the wall or the ground or whatever. And Steve comes in and just sort of has a sit down with her basically. I do kind of like Noah's reaction here, because she basically just at first is like, okay, come on, stop joking, and then she like slowly starts to realize, oh no, this is actually happening. That was really well acted, I thought. And at first she thinks like, oh, are you going to like touch me or something? He's like, no, that's not what I'm going to do. And I kind of like how like straight he is about everything. He just sits her down and says, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I captured you for your meat, and I want to keep the meat fresh. This is why I'm not going to kill you, at least not yet. So, it's a cannibalism movie, in case it wasn't obvious. And he basically captured her and also captured other women in order to harvest their flesh for, you guessed it, rich white wankers. It's basically like Squid Game episode 7. Turns out it's all the white men who have too much money who want this stuff. That's basically what's happening. So he is basically like, Steve is basically like a butcher, captures the women, and then makes like little HelloFresh food packages. Basically, puts in like some extra items and everything, like like some clothing, some personal belongings, a photograph of the woman you're about to eat, and then like a pound of the flesh. And then it gets delivered to the weird rich white wankers across America. So that's basically the premise. Noah, of course, is completely freaking out, and I'm just sitting there being like, oh, okay, that's really just what all of this is. We're just going with rich white wankers want food, and he just sort of harvests it. That's it. That okay, sure. Like Steve isn't even really crazy. If you expected Sebastian Stan to be like a full on crazy serial killer, kind of wacky, fun to watch horror dude, not really. He's kind of like the guy from American Psycho, but I would argue less interesting. And I didn't even like American Psycho that much, if I'm being honest. But yeah, that's basically what's happening. We do get one fun scene. I thought it was one of the few scenes I actually really liked, when we see Steve preparing the food in the kitchen. And it's basically just him. Again, it felt like very American Psycho in that way. It's just him like preparing the meat and the flesh, tenderizing it and everything, while while you have like a groovy sort of like 70s vintage disco song playing in the background, while he's just like grooving through the kitchen and having fun. And it's this mix of, oh no, something horrible is actually happening while a wacky song is playing. I know, nothing new. It was just kind of fun watching Sebastian Stan do it. But, you take whatever you can get, right? Okay, so Noah starts to sort of adjust to her situations. She starts talking to like other people in the adjacent rooms in the basement, and we find out that the woman next to her, called Penny, has apparently been there for a very long time. She just says, "Oh, he's captured me a while ago, and he's just kept me here, and he's slowly harvesting my body." And I want you to keep this in mind. In a cannibalism movie, where the people get slowly harvested without being killed, a woman who's been in the basement for like presumably weeks or even months, who says that she's slowly been harvested for her flesh. Just create a picture in your mind what this person might look like now at this point. If we saw them later in the movie, what could Penny look like? Just keep that in mind, because we're coming back to it. Okay, so Noah, of course, is trying to make an escape. The first opportunity she gets, and she basically talks Steve into, you know what, I need to take a shower because keeping the meat fresh, and need to keep clean. So could you please let me take a shower? And he's like, okay, sure, and brings her up to the house. And of course, she like tries to run away, but doesn't work, and he just like straight up knocks her out, and the excitement doesn't even last 10 seconds. And she sort of comes to in like an operating theater or whatever that Steve has down in his basement, and you think, oh, it's finally happening. The weird messed up cannibalism stuff is now happening when he harvests the organs or the limbs or whatever, the flesh. This is when you think, oh, the horror, the gore, or something is going to happen. You're going to see something that's going to terrify you. No. You see nothing. This movie has almost no blood, no gore, no violence, nothing. It's not even really implied, if you ask me. It's just her waking up, and he says, and I'm not joking, he says, I'm gonna take your arse. He cuts off her butt. That's what he says. You don't see any of it. You got nothing, no blood, no nothing. It's over in like a minute. If even a minute. It's not horrifying at all. It's not creepy. It's not gory. It's not violent. It's not even unsettling or anything, if you ask me. It's just said and done, and then she wakes up in her cell again, and she can't walk because her butt's missing. I'm saying she can't walk. She basically spends like 2 or 3 scenes crawling on the floor. Afterwards, she basically starts walking again. Also, she sits down throughout the movie. She runs, and if you've seen the actress from behind in the film after this scene, she clearly still has her butt. It just doesn't look any different. And I think the movie just like gave up after 10 minutes of addressing that. Sure. Okay, so meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Molly, of course, becomes concerned for Noah. Because Noah isn't texting her back properly, she finds out that the texts she's been reading were probably not sent by Noah, but made by someone else, and we can't really locate where she is. It's all kind of weird. She gets alarmed, so she starts investigating. Contacts her, I think it's like an ex-boyfriend, a bartender named Paul, who has seen Noah and Steve together at his restaurant, and Paul gives Molly the name of Steve or something like that, and Molly goes and does some investigating basically. What Molly discovers is she finds his house, she finds Steve's house and observes it, like stakeout and everything, and basically finds out that, of course, Steve has a family, is married with kids, of course. So Molly is like, okay, weird, I think this dude is having an affair with my best friend while he's actually married. So I think I should go and talk to the wife, maybe because I'm concerned about my friend. So she goes and does that. She goes and talks to the wife, who is named Anne. And Molly goes to talk to her and is like, hey, have you seen my best friend? I think your husband might be having an affair with her, etc., etc. And of course, the wife, Anne, is like, no, I think you have the wrong house. This is super awkward. Please leave. And at that point, Steve comes home. And of course, feigns total ignorance. It's like, I have no idea who you are. I've never heard of a woman named Noah, never met her, no, nothing. Then Molly, for some stupid reason, decides, while she's still in the house with the guy she presumes maybe did something to her friend, or at least has something to do with her friend's disappearance, decides to call Noah's phone while she's still in the house with the two weird people. And of course, Steve has Noah's phone and it rings and Molly sees it. It's like, huh, well, that's weird. You have my friend's phone. Steve is basically like, oh, Molly, you shouldn't have done that. And then whack, Molly gets hit from behind by Anne, who, oh, big surprise, is in on the whole thing. Because no one saw that coming. Oh, God, this movie is so predictable. So, yeah, it turns out Anne is in on it. We later, I don't know if it's here or later in the movie, also see at some point that Anne is missing a leg. So it's very heavily implied that she was at some point one of Steve's victims and either developed some kind of Stockholm syndrome or basically just seduced her way into his life in order to stay alive. Which, hint, 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 in case you couldn't guess, is what's happening with Noah. So Noah, while she's still captured, starts reading some magazines that Steve gave her, and in one of the magazines she reads a note that says, if you're reading this, that means he likes you, keep going. So she's basically deciding to like seduce him, to like gain his favor in order to stay alive. And if you're thinking, hey, that could be interesting, maybe she actually turns evil towards the end and enjoys cannibalism. No, the movie isn't that interesting. It really isn't. So she tries to sort of wheedle her way into his life and starts making some offhand comments at first, just like pointing out like her maybe an interest in cannibalism. She's like, oh, what does it taste like? Tell me. And he sort of picks up on that and is like, oh, would you like to try? And basically invites her upstairs to his house for a dinner date, where she's walking, she sits down, her butt is fine. Ugh. And they sort of, they have this dinner date, like Steve cooks for her, makes like sort of noodles and meatballs. Of course, the meatballs are human meat, made out of one of the girls in the basement, basically, that Noah talked to previously in the movie. And they just sort of start talking about, when did Steve try this for the first time? How did he get into it? What's his job? That kind of stuff. And if you're thinking you're gonna get some cool, interesting background story about Steve's character, no. He basically just said, oh, I tried it the first time when I was 16, 17 years old. Couldn't get rid of the taste since then, and then he started opening up his business. And that's it. You're not getting a reason for how he got in. Like, how did he try this for the first time? If he did mention it, I'm sorry if I'm forgetting it, but I can't for the life of me remember that he actually said how specifically he got into eating other people. It's just, it happened at some point while he was a teenager. And then he just sort of kept doing it for the past 20 years or something. Because apparently it's really easy to be a cannibal. And Noah asks him, do you only eat women or do you eat anyone? And of course, Steve says no, he only eats women. Hint, hint, wink, 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 in case you're not getting the theming and the message here. No, he only eats women. So, Noah is basically just seducing her way, actually eats some of the meat. She eats it, says it tastes interesting, sort of feigning the interest in the cannibalism. Okay, after the dinner date, Noah is brought back to her cell. Then we see Steve bringing or taking out Molly from the basement. So Molly has been brought to the murder house, the cannibalism house. And again, this is where you think, oh, he's taking her to be harvested. Now some shit's gonna go down. No. He cuts off her breasts, but you don't see any of that. Nothing. Just absolutely nothing. It's weirdly disappointing. Yeah, so we got some breast meat now. I can't remember if it's like a separate dinner date or during the same dinner date, but at some point when they're having the dinner date, Noah and Steve having a conversation, and Steve shows her basically like a wall of all the women he's had recently. He said killed recently, or he's captured, or whose flesh he's been selling, and sort of explains the business to her. And this is where, and there's like a row of mobile phones, and this is where Noah sees, oh, this is Molly's phone. I recognize this. So this is where Noah starts going like, okay, I need to make a plan, need to save my friend, etc., etc., blah, 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 blah. So this sort of goes on for a while, and then the next big dinner date happens. Steve, in like a reference to what the really douchebaggy person from the very first date at the beginning of the movie said, Steve gives her a dress because Noah would look nice in a dress. It's a really not that great looking frilly pink dress thing. Yeah, he sort of gifts it to her. She wears it for the big dinner date. I think they even eat the breast meat, like Molly's breast meat, during this dinner scene, which is maybe like the one sort of weird, uncomfortable moment in this movie. Again, if at this point in the story you're still hoping for Noah to actually get interested in the cannibalism, no. So she starts seducing him, like properly this time, like physically. They dance, and it's all cutesy. You're wondering how the hell is Steve not picking up on this, and of course you're reminded of like his wife Anne, who was probably in the same position at some point. And Noah starts seducing him, and like they go into the bedroom. And now I want you to think, what could possibly happen as Noah's escape plan as she seduces the cannibalism man and starts going down on him? She bites his dick off. Because, of course, she does. Again, that was super predictable. As soon as she started seducing him and they went to the bedroom, I was like, she's gonna bite his dick off. She's like, what else do you want? She's gonna bite his dick off because that's what you do as an escape plan with cannibalism. Of course, that's what you do. She does. This is the one moment in the movie where you see like a bit of blood, but not really. It's just like you see her sliding down, and his face just goes wide-eyed, and then Noah has like blood around her mouth. That's it. Nothing else. This is all the most hardcore violence you're gonna get in this film. And Noah starts making a run for it. For some reason, Steve is able to walk. I mean, I wouldn't know how this works when your dick or your balls are bitten off, but I'm assuming it takes you longer than 30 seconds to get up and walk while holding your crotch a bit. This is where all the unrealistic movie nonsense starts happening. Like, Steve lies in bed for like a minute, but then is able to like walk. And you're like, that would probably not happen. Noah grabs like the keys to the basement, runs down, and tries to get Molly and Penny. So first off, she gets Molly. Molly is fine. Like, she holds her chest a bit, but that's it. Okay, and now Penny. Remember Penny, the girl who said that she's been in the basement for quite a while her flesh is slowly being harvested. Conjure up the image that you had of Penny when I told you this. Now, what I had in mind was I want them to go full on weird, grotesque body horror where it's just like a torso and a head. No legs, no arms. Like, go super weird, because that would be actually horrifying as an image. Right? I can't be the only one who thought that when Penny mentioned that her flesh is slowly being harvested because she's been down there for such a long time. They get to a cell, and she's missing a leg. That's it. She's missing a leg. I think like a bit of an ear or something on her head, but that's it. She's basically only missing a leg. Like Penny has said, she's been down there for a while her flesh is being harvested. I wanted corpse, no, not straight up corpse, but I wanted just like body, head, no limbs. At least 2 limbs or 3 limbs missing. And this movie gives me nothing. Just nothing. All this movie gave me was disappointment. So, Molly, Noah, and Penny start making a run for it. But of course, for some reason, Steve, with his dick cut off or bitten off, is able to still put up a fight. And the 4 people start fighting in the kitchen. Like, I don't understand. Like, okay, I get it. Like, Noah is fine. Noah is basically fine. I know her butt is theoretically missing, but she hasn't been acting like it. Like, Molly is basically fine. She, like, occasionally just like, but it's basically fine. I get why Penny is a bit out because, you know, she's missing her leg, so maybe she's not as effective at fighting. But still, it's like 3 adult women versus a dude whose dick is missing. It's been bitten off. And for some reason, he's able to put up a fight. And it takes them so long to take him down. Like, they punch him several times, like slam his head against like the kitchen counter or something. Like, kicking him. I think he gets his head smashed in with like a meat tenderizer or something. And you would think this dude has to be dead. And yet he is not. He basically gets like knocked out for a minute. And the 3 girls start running out the house. For some reason, they go around the back into the woods instead of, you know, out the front door towards the road where you might find someone if you hurry. Huh? Oh, one little thing that happens in at this point is, while the chase is happening, remember Paul, like the bartender who Molly asked about info while she did her research? Paul turns up because he was looking for Molly, finds the house, hears gunshots, hears the fighting, is like, nope, and drives off. And that's all he contributes to the movie. I get what they were going for here, being like, men who are silent are also part of the problem, that sort of thing. But in the narrative of the film, that does nothing except annoy me. Because what is Paul even? Why is he? If he's not, just no. Okay, so the three women, instead of going out the front door where they might have met Paul, run out the back into the woods. Steve, who I remind you again is missing his dick, is walking, and now for some reason finally decides, go get a gun. He now has a gun, and now he's maybe like full on crazy. Now it's like full on, oh, you three bitches, basically. Now all the sexism comes to the forefront, like full on 100%, in case it hadn't been clear yet. And starts hunting them down. And you're thinking, how is this movie even still going on? Like, Steve should have died 10 minutes ago. They decide, in order to take him down, they decide to like split up and sort of lure him in. And they do that, like Noah throws him down, and then Molly is coming. Penny is basically out of the movie. As soon as they leave the house, Penny is not important. Penny isn't even important throughout the film. She's really not. You could have just cut her out and the film wouldn't change, really. Except for like maybe some of the conversations down the basement. But Penny isn't important. Penny isn't doing anything. And then they manage to wrestle him down, and then finally Noah takes the gun off him and shoots Steve in the face. And you're thinking, good, we're done. This is where the movie should end. No. Because they start walking back to the house, the three women, and then Noah is like, oh no, I left my mobile phone in the woods. I gotta go back and get it. And I'm like, what? What? Again, I sort of get the theming and the symbolism where they're like, oh, we're also dependent on our phones and... But this is a thriller horror movie. This is such a dumb decision. This is why you as a viewer go like, why is everyone in a horror movie so dumb? And Molly, or Penny, again, Penny isn't important. Molly is like, okay, but you come straight back, okay? Just get the phone and you come straight back. And I was like, yeah, sure, gonna do that. At the same time, Anne, remember Anne, Steve's wife, arrives at the house with like a henchman. They find her husband dead in the woods, and it's just sort of, guess that happened, and sort of goes into the woods at the same time as Noah is trying to find a phone. Can you guess what happens? Yeah, of course, Anne runs into Noah and basically starts killing her, and you're thinking, no, this is so dumb, why is this even happening? This movie should have ended like 10 minutes ago. Why are you so freaking dumb, Noah? And she's really like about to die. Anne is about to kill her ass. If for some miraculous reason, if it wasn't for Molly, who comes in without Penny, because again, Penny is not important, and like sort of just whacks Anne with a shovel and just like wails down on her, and while yelling, oh, bitches like you are the reason this kind of stuff happens, or something like that, basically saying like, oh, you're complicit, the theming, the symbolism. And then they're just Molly and Noah, it's just the two of them sitting down, finally done with everything. This is where the one funny joke I thought in the movie happens. Because again, Noah doesn't know who Anne was. She has no idea because she's been locked up in the basement this entire time. She's like, who the hell is this? And Molly's like, oh, that's Steve's wife. And Noah's just like, he was married this entire time. This was legitimately the one super funny joke I thought in the movie. And then it just fades out on them sitting in the woods, relieved with what has happened. And you see Noah's phone, where like a text message arrives from the weirdo from the very beginning of the movie, inviting her on a date again. And this is where the movie ends. And I finished this film being so disappointed because I just don't understand. Someone, and this is a legitimate question, someone please tell me why you like this movie so much. I don't know if it's because I'm in general like not easily weirded out by horror stuff, or I don't know, because I've heard people say, oh, some of the stuff was really like gruesome and uncomfortable and horrifying, and but nothing happens. There's nothing. There's no gore. There's barely any blood. There's no violence. What? What? Someone please tell me. Is cannibalism so horrifying to the general viewership? Because if that's what it is, I mean, I guess I get it. I just maybe I don't find cannibalism that horrifying. I mean, I don't know. Hannibal is one of my favorite TV shows ever. I don't know. You go figure. Again, maybe it has something to do with like the world of dating and being a woman in the dating scene. I don't know. Maybe it's that has some of the messaging that I personally don't understand, or that's maybe not targeted at me because I don't have that experience. I don't get it. As like a horror film, it just doesn't work. If it's not a horror film, it's personally barely even a thriller, if you ask me, because everything in this movie is super predictable. If you've seen horror movies, if you've seen thrillers, you know exactly how this movie goes down. You know exactly what happens. You know exactly how this is going to end. You know exactly who these characters are, what they're going to do. There are no surprises in here. I've seen some people say, oh, there are twists and turns. I'm like, what twists and turns? Everything was super obvious. And during some of the occasions where they could have had a cool twist or turn, the movie didn't do it. Overall, the movie is just so meandering and disappointing and just meh. It's meh. It looks nice, the acting is okay, but I just don't understand why so many people like this so much, because it does nothing new, it's nothing special. Again, yes, it's good for like a directorial debut, but as a movie, it's not woo. It's yeah, okay. I just expected a whole lot more going into it. I just didn't understand. The vibes not horrifying. I don't understand where the dark black comedy stuff was supposed to be, except for that joke at the very end. Because the movie isn't really that funny. It's trying to be sort of like a bit wacky, a bit like again like American Psycho in some bits, but it just doesn't really work. I didn't laugh, I didn't giggle, except for that one joke at the end. If it was supposed to be like sort of the commentary on the rom-com bit in the first 30 minutes, I mean, that's not my thing, so maybe that's why I don't get it. I just don't understand why people say this is like a dark comedy sort of thing. I just don't see it. The characters are fine. I mean, Noah is like your pretty average, like 30-year-old woman trying to like date a man who's nice to her, and then turns out it's all horribly wrong. Sebastian Stan's character Steve is again basically like a washed down discount version of the American Psycho guy. I mean, Sebastian Stan does a fine job, but I mean, it's not going to stick with you really, if you ask me. I feel a bit weird about Molly because I know I'm not the right person to judge this, but I feel like Molly sort of falls into like the black best friend stereotype thingy, because she's like the black best friend who does all of the emotional support throughout the movie. That's all she does. She's like the black emotional support character. And I don't know, I just felt a bit weird about her character. I don't know if that's just me. Again, I'm probably not the best person to judge this. But I don't know, it just felt like it's like it was sliding into some cliche movie stereotypes that really didn't need to be there. Penny completely wasted opportunity as a character, or as a plot device, or as a horror device, or whatever. I was thinking as soon as Penny was introduced, that she's definitely like in on it. That maybe she's just like that she was put there by Steve to sort of entice Noah. No, that doesn't happen. That would have maybe been an interesting twist. They don't do the body horror with her, which they could have done. Anne is just like there to be like, oh, this is what could have happened to Noah if she had committed to the whole thing. But again, you kind of see it coming that she's in on it. Oh, by the way, the henchman who was with her at the end of the film, we don't know where he is. Like, he should still be there. He should be able to like find his employers dead and then go and kill Noah and the others. No, nope. The movie just completely forgets that this dude is basically still there and able to kill the 3 girls, but nope. Paul is basically just a plot device and a symbolism device who doesn't do anything, and that's it. So, yeah. I know this sounded like I'm really pissed off, and I kind of am. But I just want to say, again, if you like this movie, if you loved it, great! That's so good for you. I can totally see why people would like this movie. And like, the title of this video is really a legitimate question. Someone tell me why you like this movie so much. Because I would like to understand why. I would love to understand why. Again, maybe it's because I'm not the right audience. Maybe it's because I'm too familiar with all the horror or thriller tropes and story developments. I don't know. Maybe it's just not my cup of tea. I don't know. It's just that I've been so baffled by all the super hyped positive opinions on this movie. And I just watched it and was like, what the hell was that? I just don't get it. See, even my laptop agrees with me. No, I got an email. No, but that's probably a sign that I should finish the video because I've been talking for almost an hour. So yeah, please do let me know down in the comments below what your opinions are on the movie. Especially do tell me some of your positive opinions on the film, some stuff I maybe missed out on, or maybe it's just that some of the stuff that happens in the film bothers me but doesn't bother you, even though you know it's a flaw. I don't know, but please do tell me down in the comments below what your thoughts are on the movie. Like I said in the beginning, this is supposed to be like a discussion. I'm open to hearing other opinions on the film. So I would definitely love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking with me throughout this almost 1 hour long rant. If you haven't subscribed yet, definitely go and do that. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll see all of you very soon. Goodbye.